They say death is the end, but what if it is only a doorway? A transition into something greater, more expansive, more real than the life we cling to so desperately. In the silent spaces between heartbeats, in that final moment when breath ceases and the body stills, something remarkable happens, not an ending but a beginning. Edgar Cayce never sought fame. He never built temples or asked for followers. He was a simple man from Kentucky with gentle eyes and a soft voice. Yet when he closed his eyes and entered what he called the sleep state, he accessed realms beyond our physical understanding. His consciousness traveled beyond the boundaries of time and space, witnessing what happens in those first critical moments after death. What he discovered challenges everything we think we know about existence. The soul doesn't simply vanish. It doesn't dissolve into nothingness. It awakens. In those first minutes after the final heartbeat, 7 distinct experiences unfold. Experiences that every human soul encounters as it transitions from the physical world into the next dimension of reality. These aren't religious fantasies or mystical theories. They are observations, mapped and documented by a man who repeatedly stepped beyond the veil and returned to tell us what he saw. The first souls Edgar Cayce encountered in his journeys weren't frightening specters or lost entities. They were beings in a state of profound transformation, aware, alert, and often surprised by what they were experiencing. Some were confused, having no framework to understand what had happened. Others experienced immediate clarity, as if waking from a dream into true reality. But regardless of their initial state, each soul followed a pattern, a sequence of events that unfolded in those crucial first minutes after physical death. And understanding these 7 stages changes everything, not just about how we perceive death, but about how we choose to live. Are you ready to know what awaits in those first moments beyond the threshold of life? The knowledge Edgar Cayce brought back isn't meant to frighten us. It's meant to awaken us to the magnificent journey that continues long after the body has fulfilled its purpose. This is the map of the afterlife according to Edgar Cayce. This is what happens in those first minutes when the soul realizes it is free. First transformation, the release. In the very first moments after death, Edgar Cayce described a profound sensation that every soul experiences, a gentle release from the physical body, like slipping out of a heavy coat after a long winter day. This is not a violent separation or a traumatic tearing away. It is a natural transition, as natural as exhaling after holding your breath. The soul feels an immediate lightening, a weightlessness that is both strange and familiar. Physical pain vanishes instantly. Limitations of the body, whether from age, illness, or injury, dissolve. There is no struggle in this moment. There is only relief, a burden lifted because the physical body, which Cayce described as merely a temporary shell, is no longer needed. During his trance states, Cayce witnessed souls in this moment of release. He saw how they often remained near their bodies, watching with curiosity rather than fear. They observed loved ones grieving, medical professionals working, the scene of an accident, but from a perspective of calm detachment. Time seems to function differently. What might appear as seconds in the physical world can feel much longer to the soul experiencing this first transformation. Not every soul immediately recognizes what has happened. Some continue trying to communicate with those around them, confused when they cannot be heard or seen. Others know instantly that a profound shift has occurred. But regardless of their awareness, all souls experience this same gentle disengagement from physical form, this same lifting of density. Cayce emphasized that this first transformation is not something to fear. It is not painful. It is not frightening. It is a return to a more natural state of being, like waking up from a dream into greater awareness, greater freedom, greater possibility. The physical body was never the true self. It was only a vehicle, and now the journey continues without it. Second transformation, the awakening of perception. As the soul adjusts to its release from physical form, the second transformation begins, a radical expansion of perception. Cayce described this as seeing with the eyes of the soul. Physical senses fall away, replaced by a more comprehensive awareness that perceives energy, intention, and essence rather than mere appearances. Colors become more vivid, extending beyond the visible spectrum. Sounds take on new dimensions, including harmonies imperceptible to human ears. The soul begins to perceive the thoughts and emotions of those nearby as tangible things, visible waves of energy and light radiating from both the living and other transitioned souls. In this state of heightened awareness, the soul can see through physical objects, walls, ceilings, distances, none of these present barriers any longer. The soul can travel instantly to wherever its attention focuses. If it thinks of a loved one, it finds itself immediately in their presence, though they may not be aware of it. Cayce noted that souls in this second transformation often experience a profound moment of recognition. They realize they are more conscious, more alert, and more aware than they ever were while in physical form. There is no dimming of awareness, no reduction of self. Instead, there is expansion, clarity, and a growing understanding that what they thought was reality was merely a shadow of something much greater. At this stage, souls begin to notice other presences around them, helpers, guides, or what some might call angels. These beings are not physical, but they are distinctly real, radiating what Cayce described as a light that does not blind but fills. They do not force the soul in any direction. They simply remain present, offering reassurance through their very existence. The physical world starts to appear dreamlike in comparison to this new reality. As one soul described it through Cayce's readings, it was as if I had been watching shadows on a wall my entire life, and suddenly turned to see what was casting those shadows. Third transformation, the life review. Perhaps the most profound of the 7 transformations comes third, what Cayce called the reflection, or what many now term the life review. This is not judgment from an external source. It is self-realization of the most profound kind. In this transformation, the soul experiences its entire life again, but not merely as a passive observer. The soul relives each moment from multiple perspectives simultaneously, feeling not only its own emotions, but also the emotions of everyone it interacted with throughout life. Every kindness and every hurt takes on new meaning when experienced. From the receiving end, a harsh word spoken in anger is felt as it was received. A moment of compassion is experienced as the relief it provided. Cayce described this as the soul's education, not punishment, but profound understanding of the impact of each choice, each action, each omission. This review happens almost instantaneously by earthly standards, yet feels complete and unhurried from the soul's perspective. Time functions differently in this realm, allowing for complete understanding without the limitations of linear experience. What makes this third transformation so significant is that the soul does not experience shame or judgment from external sources. There is no being pointing out failures or shortcomings. Instead, there is only truth, clear, unfiltered reality about who the soul was and what impact it had on others. Cayce emphasized that this transformation is not about guilt, but about growth. The soul sees clearly what it accomplished and what remains to be learned. It understands the patterns it created and followed. It recognizes the lessons it mastered and those it must still embrace. Even souls that lived what might be considered troubled or harmful lives are not condemned during this process. They simply experience truth without the defensive barriers and justifications that shielded them in life. This can be challenging, but it is never without compassion. The light that illuminates these truths is the same light that offers healing. Fourth, transformation, the encounter. Following the life review, the soul experiences what Edgar Cayce described as the meeting or the encounter. This fourth transformation brings the soul into conscious contact with other souls, both those it knew in life and those who have been waiting to greet it upon its transition. These are not random meetings. They are reunions of profound significance. Parents, children, friends, partners from this life and previous ones, souls that share deep connections, regardless of their earthly relationships. Some may appear as the soul knew them in life, while others present themselves in their most authentic, energetic form. Cayce noted that souls are not limited to meeting only their loved ones. Sometimes, the encounter includes those with whom the soul had conflict or unresolved business. These meetings are not confrontational but healing, opportunities to understand perspectives that remained hidden during physical life. What makes this transformation particularly meaningful is that communication happens without the barriers of language. Souls connect through direct understanding, sharing complete thoughts, emotions, and memories without the limitations of words. Nothing is hidden, nothing is misunderstood. This perfect communication allows for healing and reconciliation that might have been impossible during physical life. Some souls, Cayce observed, are so deeply moved by these encounters that they experience what might be called a spiritual catharsis, a release of burdens carried for lifetimes, an understanding that transcends intellectual knowledge and becomes soul-deep recognition. One remarkable aspect of this transformation is that souls often meet guides or teachers they didn't know in their most recent life, beings who have been connected to them across multiple incarnations, helping to shape their journey even when they weren't aware of this guidance. The encounter transformation isn't brief. It unfolds as long as needed for the soul to feel complete in its connections, to resolve what remained unresolved, and to receive the welcome that assures it, you are not alone, you have never been alone, and you will never be alone. Fifth transformation, the realization of freedom. As the soul moves through the initial moments after death, it experiences what Cayce described as the discovery of true movement. This fifth transformation is characterized by the soul's realization that it is no longer bound by physical limitations, not just the limitations of the body, but the constraints of earthly physics and dimensions. The soul discovers it can move by intention alone. A thought of a place, whether a physical location on earth or a realm beyond physical reality, results in immediate presence there. Distance becomes meaningless. The soul begins to understand that consciousness itself is the vehicle of transport, not a physical form requiring time to traverse space. This freedom of movement extends beyond physical locations. The soul can also move through different vibrational states, or what Cayce called levels of awareness. By changing its focus or intention, the soul can shift between different planes of existence, experiencing various aspects of reality that were hidden during physical life. During this transformation, many souls experiment with their new freedom. They visit places that held meaning for them in life. They witness events occurring on earth that interest them. They explore realms and dimensions that were previously inaccessible. There is a period of joyful discovery as the soul realizes it is no longer confined by time, space, or physical limitations. Yet this freedom comes with responsibility. As the soul moves through different planes and visits various locations, it becomes increasingly aware that its state of being, its thoughts, emotions, and level of spiritual development determines which realms it can access. Cayce described this as like draws to like. Souls naturally gravitate toward vibrational states that match their own. This is not judgment, but natural law. Some souls find themselves drawn to higher realms of light and harmony, while others may linger in states that reflect their unresolved attachments or fears. The freedom of movement becomes both a gift and a mirror, showing the soul exactly where it stands in its evolutionary journey. This transformation reveals that freedom isn't merely about where the soul can go, but about what the soul has become. True freedom, Cayce emphasized, comes not just from the absence of physical limitations, but from the absence of spiritual burdens. resentments, fears, attachments, and illusions that the soul carried in life and may continue to carry after death. Sixth transformation, the recognition of purpose. In this critical transformation, the soul begins to perceive what Edgar Cayce called the pattern of the whole. For the first time, the soul sees beyond the details of its recent life to understand the larger purpose of its existence across multiple incarnations. This isn't merely a review of one lifetime, but a comprehensive understanding of the soul's journey across time, the lessons it has sought to master, the growth it has achieved, and the purpose it has been serving in the greater cosmic design. Past lives come into focus not as separate existences, but as chapters in an ongoing story of evolution and growth. Cayce described how souls in this phase experience a profound shift in perspective. What seemed like random events, chance meetings, or meaningless suffering in life suddenly reveal themselves as carefully orchestrated opportunities for growth and service. The soul recognizes that there are no accidents. Every relationship, every challenge, every joy was part of a larger pattern. During this transformation, the soul gains clarity about the specific lessons it came to learn in its most recent incarnation. It understands which lessons were mastered and which remain incomplete. It sees how these specific lessons fit into its larger soul journey and recognizes the progress made over many lifetimes. This recognition isn't intellectual, it's experiential. The soul doesn't just understand its purpose, it feels it as an undeniable truth. There is often a moment of what might be called cosmic remembering, where the soul reconnects with its original intentions before incarnation and measures these against what was actually accomplished. For some souls, this transformation brings immense peace and satisfaction as they recognize the growth achieved and the service rendered. For others, there may be a gentle recognition of what remains unfinished. But Cayce emphasized that this recognition never comes with judgment, only with compassion and understanding of the soul's ongoing journey. Perhaps most significantly, during this transformation, many souls begin to perceive their connection to what Cayce called the whole, or the creative forces, understanding that their individual purpose is part of a much larger divine purpose that encompasses all souls and all creation. Seventh transformation, the choice. The seventh and final. Transformation in the immediate aftermath of death is what Edgar Cayce referred to as the moment of direction. Having experienced release, expanded perception, life review, encounters with other souls, freedom of movement, and recognition of purpose, the soul now faces a profound choice about what comes next. This is not a choice imposed by external judgment, but arises naturally from the soul's clear perception of its own state of development and remaining lessons. Some souls, Cayce observed, choose to remain in the spiritual realms for a period of rest, healing, and further growth before considering reincarnation. Others feel a strong pull to return quickly to physical life to continue their evolution, or to fulfill specific missions of service. The choice isn't made in isolation. The soul consults with its guides and teachers, with souls it has known across multiple lifetimes, and with what Cayce called the council, advanced beings who help oversee soul progression. Together they review what has been accomplished and what might be achieved through various possible paths forward. For souls choosing reincarnation, this transformation includes beginning to plan the circumstances of the next life, selecting parents' locations, time periods, and potential life challenges that will best serve the soul's ongoing growth. This isn't random but carefully considered, based on what the soul needs to learn next. For those choosing to remain in the spiritual realms, there are many possible paths, serving as guides for other souls, contributing to creative endeavors that transcend physical expression, or moving into higher vibrational states for more advanced learning and service. Cayce emphasized that no soul is ever forced to reincarnate. The choice always belongs to the soul itself, made from a place of clear understanding rather than fear. or external pressure. Even souls with significant unfinished learning may choose to remain in the spiritual realms until they feel ready to return to physical life. This final transformation completes the soul's initial transition from physical to spiritual existence. The first minutes after death, which may be experienced as much longer from the soul's perspective outside of time, establish the foundation for the soul's continuing journey, whether that journey leads back to earth or into deeper spiritual realms. The choice made in this seventh transformation isn't permanent or binding for all eternity. It is simply the next step in an ongoing journey of growth, learning, and love that continues beyond what humans typically define as life and death. Death, as witnessed through Cayce's extraordinary perceptions, reveals itself not as an ending, but as an unveiling, a moment when the soul rediscovers what it temporarily forgot during physical incarnation. The 7 transformations that occur in those first minutes after death are not separate from life, but are the natural continuation of an eternal journey. Edgar Cayce's observations offer profound insights not just about death, but about the nature of existence itself. Through his thousands of trance readings, patterns emerge that challenge our fundamental assumptions about reality, consciousness, and purpose. One of the most significant understandings Cayce shared was that the afterlife is not a distant realm, separate from our current existence. It exists alongside us, interpenetrating physical reality, but vibrating at frequencies beyond normal human perception. The transition at death is not a journey to a faraway place, but a shift in awareness. Like changing the channel on a radio to receive different frequencies that were always present, but previously undetected, Cayce consistently emphasized that the soul's experiences after death are not predetermined by external forces or religious affiliations. Rather, they are shaped by the soul's own vibrational state, its level of spiritual development, its capacity for love, its freedom from fear and attachment. Souls naturally gravitate toward realms that match their own frequency, finding themselves in environments that reflect their inner reality. This explains why descriptions of the afterlife vary so dramatically across different accounts and traditions. Each soul experiences the afterlife through the lens of its own development and understanding. There is no single, uniform afterlife experience imposed on all souls, but rather infinite variations reflecting the infinite diversity of soul journeys. Another crucial insight from Cayce's work is the continuity of consciousness. The soul doesn't become something different after death. It simply becomes more fully itself, freed from the limitations of physical existence. The personality, memories, knowledge, and relationships developed during life all continue, though they may be perceived with greater clarity and understanding. Perhaps most importantly, Cayce revealed that the experiences immediately following death are not final or fixed. They are transitional states, steps in an ongoing evolution. No soul is eternally condemned to lower vibrational realms, and no achievement is the final destination. The journey continues, with unlimited opportunities for growth, service, and the expansion of love. Cayce also spoke at length about what he called the Akashic records, what might be described as the cosmic memory that records every thought, word and deed of every soul across all dimensions of existence. During the life review, souls access their own portion of these records, seeing the true impact and meaning of their lives from a higher perspective. For those still in physical form, Cayce's insights offer both comfort and challenge. Comfort in knowing that death is not the end, that loved ones continue their journey, that nothing of value is ever truly lost. Challenge in recognizing that the afterlife will reflect the inner state we cultivate during physical life, our capacity for love, forgiveness, compassion, and understanding. This is why Cayce often said that we are creating our afterlife experience right now, through every choice, every interaction, every internal state we nurture or allow. The 7 transformations after death simply reveal and amplify what the soul has already become during its time in physical form. Understanding what happens to the soul in those first minutes after death transforms not just our perception of dying, but of living itself. Edgar Cayce's revelations offer profound guidance for how we might approach our current existence in light of the journey that awaits us all. If the first transformation after death is release, then perhaps we can begin practicing that release now, letting go of attachments to physical possessions, to fixed identities, to the illusion of control. This doesn't mean abandoning responsibility or engagement with life, but rather holding these things lightly, recognizing them as temporary aspects of our journey rather than defining elements of our existence. If expanded perception awaits us, we might cultivate greater awareness in our daily lives, paying attention to the subtle energies around us, developing our intuition, opening ourselves to dimensions of experience beyond the merely physical. Meditation, contemplation, time in nature. These practices help us transcend the limitations of ordinary perception even while in physical form. Knowing that a life review awaits, in which we'll experience the impact of our actions from the perspective of those affected, we might live with greater empathy and consideration. Before speaking or acting, we could ask ourselves, how will this feel when I experience it from the receiving end? This simple awareness could transform our interactions and relationships. Understanding that we'll encounter those we've known again, beyond the veil of physical existence, might inspire us to heal relationships now, to practice forgiveness, to express love while we still have the opportunity. Nothing is ever truly finished between souls who are connected across multiple lifetimes. The freedom of movement awaiting the soul reminds us that we are not our bodies. We are consciousness temporarily expressing through physical form. This understanding can help us approach physical limitations, aging and illness with greater equanimity, recognizing them as temporary conditions rather than fundamental truths about who we are. Recognizing that we'll gain clarity about our soul's purpose might encourage us to listen more deeply to the inner guidance available even now. Our intuition, our deepest values, the activities that bring us genuine joy and fulfillment, these are often signposts pointing toward our larger purpose, if only we would pay attention. And finally, understanding that we'll face choices about our ongoing journey might inspire us to develop our capacity for wise discernment now. Each day brings choices that either align us more closely with our highest potential or pull us away from it. Practicing conscious choice-making in daily life prepares us for the more profound choices we'll face beyond this life. Edgar Cayce repeatedly emphasized that the boundaries between physical life and the afterlife are much thinner than most people realize. The states of consciousness available after death can be glimpsed during physical life through deep meditation, prayer, dreams, and moments of transcendent awareness. We don't have to wait until death to begin experiencing expanded consciousness. In his readings, Cayce often spoke about what he called the meeting ground, a level of consciousness where those in physical form can connect with those who have transitioned beyond it. This meeting ground becomes accessible when we quiet the external senses and open to deeper awareness, particularly in states between waking and sleeping. Many who have lost loved ones report experiences of connection that transcend ordinary understanding, a sudden sense of presence, meaningful dreams, synchronicities that seem to convey messages. Cayce suggested these aren't merely psychological phenomena, but genuine encounters occurring at levels of consciousness beyond the physical. Perhaps, most importantly, Cayce's insights reveal that we're never truly separated from those who have transitioned. The 7 transformations that occur in those first minutes after death don't take our loved ones away from us. They simply shift them to a different frequency of existence, one that remains accessible through love, which transcends all boundaries between worlds. What awaits us is not to be feared, but embraced as the natural continuation of an eternal journey. The soul's experience in those first minutes after death Release, expanded perception, life review, encounter, freedom, purpose, and choice all point toward a universe of meaning, connection, and unlimited possibility. In the end, Edgar Cayce's most profound message wasn't about death at all, but about the nature of life itself, life that continues, evolves, and expands beyond what our physical senses can perceive. "You don't have a soul," he often said. "You are a soul. You have a body." This simple truth, when fully realized, changes everything. The 7 transformations awaiting us all are not distant future events, but glimpses into our true nature, a nature temporarily hidden by physical existence but never diminished, never lost, and waiting to be fully remembered when we too make that journey beyond the threshold of what we call death, into the greater life beyond.